Hi, this is Jan Romano. I'm coming to you from MassHire Metro North Career Centers. We're working remotely and trying to bring to you some needed Excel training. We're going to talk about printing worksheets today. We're going to continue our series. We talked about creating a budget. We talked about doing formulas, auto sums, and subtracting some income minus expenses. We're going to work on that budget today, and we're going to print it. So I'm going to bring up my Excel screen and bring up that budget that we used the other day. I'm going to take my webcam off, and we're going to focus on Excel. So you see Excel here, and let me remind you of a couple of things that we did. We typed in all of our data. We did our labels and our values, and we typed our values in plainly and dressed them up using the accounting format. We took in cell B13 and we created the auto sum to add up these numbers above. We also went into cell B15 and we did a formula to take the income and subtract the total. So our spreadsheet is looking good. We put some borders, we did some merge and center, and so now we're ready to print it. So watch when I go to File. I'm going to go up to the ribbon, by the way, and File is up here at the top in the green. I'm going to click on File. Notice I have my menu on the left-hand side, and I'm going to find Print. So I'm going to click on Print. Then you'll see what the document would look like as if it were printed. It's pretty small. It's in portrait mode as a default. It is exactly the way we typed it, but as you can see, it's small on the page. So what we don't want to do is go back to our document, go back to our spreadsheet and change the font size or make it bigger in the document. What we want to do is we want to stay here and print, and there are several buttons here that are shortcut buttons, and maybe we'll use those in a second. But what I like to show everybody is down here at the bottom, it says page setup. So I'm going to ask you, when you practice, to try the page setup. So I'm going to click on page setup. A dialog box will appear, and this dialog box has tabs at the top, page and margins, header and footer, and sheet. And the first tab we'll start with is page, and I want you to notice portrait and landscape. So maybe the first thing I might do is try landscape and see how that looks. I'll click on landscape and click on OK, and it still looks pretty small. And landscape really is not going to help me in this very small spreadsheet. So I'm going to go back to this page setup button. I'll keep it in portrait, but I'll go right underneath that. And I want you to notice there's scaling here, and it says adjust to 100%. Well, I might want to change that and make it at least double its size. So I'll put in 200 and I'll click OK. When I click on 200, it means make it 200%. Take a look at it. Looks pretty good. It's a little bit bigger, easier to read. I could even go a little bit higher maybe and make this a little bit bigger. Let's say I keep it like this. Well, what are some of the other things that I might want to do to this? I want to go back to page setup. When I click on page setup, I might want to change the margins, or, so here are the margins, top, left, bottom, right. I might want to go down here to where it says center on page and try centering it horizontally and maybe even vertically and see how it looks then. And when I click OK, you will see that it is centered horizontally and vertically. I tend to like it more centered horizontally than vertically, but again, everybody's different. But this gives me a little bit more room at the top. For our next thing that we might want to do is put in a header and then room at the bottom to put in a footer. So I'm going to go back to this button right here, page setup. And we did page, so we put it into portrait. We changed it to 200%. We went to margins. We did center on page horizontally and vertically. And now we're going to go back up to the top and click on header and footer. So I'll click on header and footer, and I want you to notice that there are no footer and no header at this time, but there's also custom header and footer buttons here as well. So first I'm going to click this down arrow and see what Excel will give me for a header. So it'll give me the name of the file, it'll give me the path that the file it is in, it'll give me confidential. So there's a lot of choices here that I might want to use page numbering, my name with page numbering, the date of the file. So there are a lot of choices, but what if there's not a choice that's perfect? What I would do is choose none and come here to custom header, and that's what I'm going to do. So let me click on custom header and show you. Then another dialog box pops up. And this window that pops up has a left, a center, and a right section. And so in the left section, I think I'm going to type, maybe I'll type my name. I'll go over to the center section, and what I might do is use this date button. Maybe I want the date to show up in the middle, or maybe I want the date to show up on the right. You can decide whichever box you want to put it in, but I'll click on date for the center. And then I'll come over here to the right-hand side, and maybe I want the name of the file. There are other buttons here. I could insert the sheet name. I could come over here and insert page numbering, but I'm going to type MassHire. And then I'm going to click OK. Notice it says the header, it has the date, it has MassHire. Watch when I click OK here, it will put that. And that header will show up on the top of every page if we had a multiple page worksheet. Let me go back to page setup. And again, this is to show you all of the features. So I'm going to go back into header and footer. And I'm going to go click the down arrow here for footer. And let's say I want to choose page numbering at the bottom. And there it is nicely right here in the given footers that Excel will give me choices for. So I'm going to click on page 1 and I'll click OK, and that will put it at the bottom of my page. And again, if I had a second page, it would say page 2. So headers and footers. Let me go back to page setup and show you one more thing. I'm going to go back in here, and this time I'm going to click on the tab at the top called Sheet. And when I'm in this sheet, there are things that I can print. At print time, I can print the grid lines. I can also print row and column headings. Let me click on both right now, and I'll click OK. And I'll show you, and I do this a lot for training when I give out my handouts for people to use and to create. I'll give this out with the column headings. So here's the A and the B. I'll show the row numbers, and that way there, when you're doing a spreadsheet for practice, you can see what columns and rows and what cells I used. But in a business setting, I'll go back to page setup, and typically in the sheet tab, I'll take off at least the row and column headings. And because I put some borders in, I might leave the grid lines, but I'm going to go back to page setup, go back to sheet. I like to take the grid lines off and make it a nice clean copy. Once I click OK, you'll see what I mean. And here is my spreadsheet showing exactly what I needed to show in the center of the page with a header at the top and a footer at the bottom. And then I'd come back over here and I'd try one of these buttons. And one of these buttons over here is the Print Active Sheets button. Now, if you have a worksheet that is many sheets, you might want to just print the active sheet, which is the current sheet. You might want to print the entire workbook. You might want to print just a selection. So some of us work with large spreadsheets and we only want to print a section of that spreadsheet. So we would highlight just that piece of the spreadsheet and then choose print selection. And then of course you would hit this print button. So that's our going over printing. This is printing a small spreadsheet. In my next section, I'm going to go over printing a large spreadsheet that is a little bit bigger, maybe has different pages, and we'll go over page numbering and all that again. So I'm going to hit the back button. This is our spreadsheet. It looks exactly the same as we started. there's a dotted line here to show where is my page break. And so after you go and set up your printing, this dotted line will show vertically, and then this dotted line will show horizontally to show me where my page breaks. And that's it. So we went through printing. What do you think? Can you try it? And we'll meet again and talk about a long workbook and how to print that. So I'm giving you some time to practice. And if you have questions, I think we're going to have a question and answer section a little bit later. And hopefully we'll be able to answer all of your questions. Have a good day. See you again.